You are Locked On Pistons Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Detroit on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh, yes, here we go. Welcome one, welcome all. It's live. Locked On Pistons Postcast, and the regular season is officially in the books, albeit the finale goes the way of the Milwaukee Bucks, 140-133. The final Pistons finished regular season 44-38. We will talk all about it. They had quite the scoring run down the stretch to force overtime, but you know what? We can all agree the attention now shifts to the playoffs. We'll have my turning point, what we're talking about, our player of the game, and a look ahead at the playoffs. That's all coming up on this edition of Live Locked On Pistons Postcast. And as always, we thank you for making the Locked On Pistons Postcast your post-game destination, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, on YouTube, it's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. My name is Jake Riepma. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake_Riepma. Let me get it on the screen for you there at Jake_Riepma. Fired up to be with you on the postcast. And shout out to our everydayers and those that tune in to the Locked On Pistons podcast with Ku Kahil. Shout out to Ku. And don't forget that you can get your Pistons content on the daily. Your favorite podcast now has a newsletter, lockedondaily.com. Sign up for free for the Locked On Pistons daily newsletter, lockedondaily.com. Want to welcome everyone to get into the comments because there was a lot to unpack with this one. That being said, the Pistons can't get the monkey off their back against the Milwaukee Bucks, but I know nobody played in this finale. I don't want to call it meaningless, but there just wasn't anything on the line as far as seedings. It's not like the Western Conference where there's 7 different seeds up for grabs. The Pistons knew their fate, their destiny was to be the number 6 seed and play the New York Knicks in the opening round, regardless of what happened. And kind of a funky game. As you give you the high-level overview here, Milwaukee came screaming out of the gates, up 43-25, big lead at halftime. But the Pistons in that fourth quarter outscored the Bucks 31-25. And down the stretch, though, it was a tie game at 114. The Milwaukee Bucks go on this huge run down the stretch and create the separation. You think this one's over, as Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend. This is just crazy. With the game tied at 114, the Bucks pull ahead 122-114. So yes, that's an 8-0 run with 42 seconds left. This is just crazy. 42 seconds left. You get a Lindy Waters 3-pointer to make it 122-117. Still down 5 after being down 8. Then you get a Bobby Klintman 3-pointer. That makes it 122-120. 6-0 run for the Pistons. And the Bucks get one free throw, one of 2. So still the window's open. And yes, Lindy Waters hits the 3-pointer to make it all tied up at 123 and to force overtime. Let's go ahead and make that our talking about segment.
This is what you'll be talking about.
So the run was great. I mean, an 8-0 run in 42 seconds. That's insane. Tie the game. I'm sorry. Let me try that again. It was the 3 3-pointers. So a 9-1 run. So the 8-point differential erases that 8-point lead for the Milwaukee Bucks. And so impressive. It's role players, right? Because obviously no Cade in this one, and the rest of the starters had been sat at that point. And so it's Lindy Waters and Bobby Klintman that are making the big shots down the stretch to force overtime. So got to give them a lot of credit. But we know what happened in overtime. The Bucks pull ahead. And I mean, speaking of giving credit, how about Pat Connaughton off for the Milwaukee Bucks, a career high 43 points? Are you kidding me? 16-29 shooting. It was his career high. And pretty impressive game for him. 40 points to go along with the 11 rebounds. And, oh, by the way, 5 assists. That's from Pat Connaughton. And they were chanting MVP for him when he was at the free throw line late. I mean, that's the last day of the regular season for you. Just about anything can happen there. But the big takeaway in this game, and not even in this game, but just in general, even though the Pistons lost their last 2 games of the regular season, I just kept finding myself smiling from ear to ear watching. Not, and today it's not the best example because not everybody's playing, but the pregame hit on ESPN and NBA Countdown with Cade Cunningham, and just putting this entire season in a standalone vacuum of how much improvement has taken place, the drastic change from the culture of where it was before the arrival of Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff to where it is now, the emergence of Cade Cunningham as a bona fide star in the National Basketball Association, the improved play from role players, not even role players, but difference makers that have found their niche and found their spot as players for the Detroit Pistons, just speaks volumes to where this team is at. And as we enter the postseason, I think that's important to remember. And I'm not sure everybody, and me included, I don't always do the best of keeping things in perspective. And I'm not saying I hate the term playing with house money. It's none of that. It is a matter of fact, this team has completely revolutionized where the Detroit Pistons are as a team, as an organization, as a city, and they've provided an outlet for the team or for the fan base to get behind and really be proud of. We always take your comments here on the Locked On Pistons postcast. Demetrius McNeil up first. First things first, congratulations to the Western Michigan Broncos for winning the national championship last night. That was pretty cool in the Frozen Four. On the other hand, 13 straight losses to the Bucks despite showing some heart. Yeah, whatever reason, the Pistons just cannot get past the Milwaukee Bucks. And so I think playing the New York Knicks will be a welcomed, refreshing change. And this is a team that the Pistons have matched up well against throughout the course of this season. Of course, they've beat the New York Knicks 3 out of the 4 times they've played, and I think that will bode well for the mental psyche behind it. But make no mistake about it, going to Madison Square Garden, having to play on the road is certainly going to be a challenge, but a challenge that I believe this Pistons team is up for. And I can't wait for the postseason. This is a team that has not won a postseason game in a very, very long time. That's been no secret. Obviously, the Blake Griffin Pistons, where he was playing on one leg, didn't get it done. And then the Stanley Johnson Pistons, when the Cleveland Cavaliers came in and swept the Detroit Pistons. Those are the last 2 times the Pistons had a postseason experience. And so to see where they are now, I mean, this Detroit Pistons team is in a whole different place because, man, has it been a while since the Pistons won a postseason game. And the last time the Detroit Pistons won in the playoffs, I mean, you got to go all the way back to a time that is, wow, I want to make sure I had this right, 2008. Unbelievable. 2008 is the last time this Pistons team won a playoff game. That is just wow. That needs to change because they've been swept the last 2 times they've been there, and the drought needs to end. So looking forward to that. But as always, we've got more to do here on the live Locked On Pistons postcast. One more comment from Moses says, as soon as the Pistons clinched the top 6 after beating the Raptors, I did not care if they win or lose, just wanted the playoffs to begin. I think you are not alone in that, my friend. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way as it relates to the Detroit Pistons. And it's finally here. It's finally here. The postseason will be the next time the Pistons lace it up. So when we come back, I'll have my turning point. I'll have the player of the game, and we will tie a bow on our last regular season edition of a live Locked On Pistons postcast. Don't go anywhere. That's next here on Locked On Sports Detroit. Hey, this episode of the Locked On Pistons postcast is brought to you by Prize Picks. Say it with me. Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is on Prize Picks. All you do is pick more or less on a player's stat projection, and from there, you watch the winnings roll on in. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. There is no doubt about that. With Prize Picks, you can win up to 1,000 times your money, And it's as easy as picking more or less on a player's stat projection. With the NBA playoffs coming up, you got to get in on the action, and Prize Picks is the most exciting way to do exactly that. Prize Picks offers quick and easy payouts, which I absolutely love because you get your money when you want it. And there's nothing like having that money get to you instantly. That's great stuff. And oh, by the way, it's basketball, there's hockey, you got all kinds of stuff going on with Prize Picks. So download the app today, use that code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA, $50 instantly. Prize Picks, run your game. This episode of the Locked On Pistons Postcast is also brought to you by Wayfair. That's right. Listen up, my friends. Wayfair, proud sponsor of today's episode. And you know that spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small business updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, and outdoor lighting, Wayfair has quality products for every budget. And I love it because, listen, not everybody else is dealing with the same budget. And I love when they make shopping seamless. You find exactly what you need to fit your space and your style. And I love that they have all the top brands like GE, Moen at great prices. Wayfair makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's wayfair.com, wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. This episode of the Locked On Pistons Postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel. America's number one sportsbook is FanDuel, which you already knew that. But hey, the NBA playoffs are almost here. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the app. Back with you on a live Locked On Pistons postcast. I believe we lost a little internet connection there. The bosses, I'm sure, from the internet provider will be hearing from me because we can't have that. Unbelievable. My apologies. I have to work on that internet signal, but you know the gist. All right, now we're for sure back. We love that. Okay, here we go. Don't get rattled. We stay alive and well. And even though there's all kinds of stuff going on between the Masters, you got Tigers baseball in action. We had a Pistons game today at the conclusion of the regular season. Detroit loses their 13th consecutive game against the Milwaukee Bucks, 140-133, an epic 9-1 run, though, to erase an 8-point deficit in less than a minute to force overtime. But in overtime, it was, in fact, the Milwaukee Bucks outlasting the Pistons for the win, 140-133. And with that said, let's get into our turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
There's a couple of different turning points. I'm watching this. The game's tied at 114. I see the Bucks go on an 8-0 run, and I think, well, there's your turning point. Milwaukee, a couple of turnovers by the Pistons, a couple of empty possessions, and the Bucks, on the other hand, finding a way to just really coast to that 8-point lead early or late in that fourth quarter, I thought there's your turning point. But a turning point on turning point was the Detroit Pistons mounting an 8-0 run with Lindy Waters hitting a couple of triples. And although for the Pistons, they unfortunately result in the overtime loss. But I think the turning point today, we'll take this game out of it, just the entire turning point of the organization. And I wanted to talk in great detail about this because I think the last game of the regular season lends the perfect platform to do so. It cannot be understated the drastic improvement that has been made, an NBA best turnaround in terms of more than tripling their win total from a year ago. I mean, this team had been in the basement of the NBA for over a decade, and it's just so great to see them rise from the ashes and go into the postseason as the 6th seed, looking to make some noise against the New York Knicks. Can't wait for that. Time now for our player of the game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, we won't spend a lot of time with this one. We already gave him his flowers, but Pat Connaughton, career high 43 points today, +7, 6 of 9 from the foul line, 5 of 12 from the long line, and 16 of 29 from the floor overall. He also had 11 boards, but a day he won't forget as he kept the game ball at the end there. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but kudos to Pat Connaughton. And I think Giannis, who rested today, and the rest of the Bucks stars are ready to get in on the action in the postseason as well. Who knows? Maybe the Pistons will see them in the postseason. But work to be done against the New York Knicks, baby. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to having the post-game playoff edition, our first ever post-game Locked On Pistons postcast. Looking forward to that. Until then, have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. If you want to join us over on Locked On Tigers for a Tigers postcast, we'll have that in just a bit. Enjoy the Masters. Thanks as always for making the Locked On Pistons postcast your post-game destination, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day, free and available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. My name is Jake Riepma, signing off for the regular season and inviting you to join me for the postseason as the Pistons take on the New York Knicks. We'll talk to you then.